Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. I'm literally so excited you're here today. We are going to be unpacking a truly fascinating framework called the Counter-Nexus. Now, if you're leading a small or medium enterprise, an SME, you already know the digital landscape can feel completely stacked against you. You're constantly up against massive corporations with bottomless marketing budgets and endless piles of data. But today, we're looking at a real David versus Goliath playbook for the digital age. This is all about how you can survive and honestly thrive, not by trying to outscale the giants, but by out-trusting them. We've got 5 clear steps to get through today. We're going to look at the algorithmic visibility trap, then introduce this idea of the counter-nexus, walk through its 4 strategic pillars, map out exactly how to build your own counter-network, and wrap up with the counter-network effect. Let's just dive right in. All right, part 1, the algorithmic visibility trap. So I want to start off with a pretty existential question. Can small businesses even survive the age of algorithms? Because let's be real, right now, you're not just competing on how good your product or service is. You're fighting for your very survival in these incredibly dense, completely opaque digital ecosystems. You're up against a massive threat known as algorithmic marginalization. To put this into perspective, look at this massive 5-year study covering over 800 SMEs. It showed that businesses relying heavily on algorithms saw a sudden 17% drop in visibility purely because the platform changed its algorithm. No warning, right? The quality of the business didn't change at all, but because of some random code tweak in a server room somewhere, poof, visibility vanishes. It absolutely proves that playing the algorithm game is structurally rigged against smaller players. And the penalty for losing that rigged game is basically falling off a cliff. If your firm is ranking on page 2 or beyond in search results, you're getting a staggering 95% less engagement than your top page competitors. 95%! What that means is that scale-based competition, trying to outspend the megacorporations on SEO or ads, is practically impossible for an SME. There's literally no way to win that way. If you want to know why this is happening, historian Yuval Noah Harari actually hit the nail on the head. He notes that large-scale information networks aren't just mere conduits for communication. They're actually mechanisms for creating and maintaining intersubjective realities, meaning these inorganic gatekeepers, the search engines, the AI infrastructures, they systematically construct a reality that gives large actors all the power, and they marginalize you in the process. Which brings us to part 2, enter the counter-nexus. So we have to completely change the rules of engagement here. The old playbook is all about chasing algorithmic visibility, trying to win on scale, reach, and volume, a game SMEs are destined to lose. But the counter-nexus way, that's about establishing narrative authority. It's a major shift towards clarity, consistency, and trust. In this localized, deep-root system of trust, your meaning matters way more than your metrics. You stop trying to copy the giant corporate models, and you start building your own undeniable credibility from within. To pull this off, you need to establish what academics call cognitive sovereignty. Don't let the fancy term intimidate you. It basically just means having the capacity to completely control how your organization is seen, understood, and remembered. You define your identity on your own terms. You're the one telling the world who you are, instead of letting a black box algorithm in Silicon Valley dictate your worth. It's all about reclaiming your agency. And once you take back that control, you unlock something called epistemic resilience. This is your ability to maintain absolute credibility and trust even when the market goes crazy, simply by keeping your story coherent through the chaos. And honestly, the data here is wild. SMEs with this trait, the ones who consistently keep their actions aligned with their values when things get tough, they see 63% less revenue decline during market disruptions. Think about that. A consistent story literally acts as a shield for your bottom line. Okay, part 3, the 4 strategic pillars. So how do we actually do this? Well, there's a foundation of 4 key pillars to help you compete on clarity instead of budget. Pillar 1 is clarity of purpose. You have to clearly define why you exist beyond just making money. Pillar 2 is narrative integrity, which means developing a strict brand narrative framework so your messaging is absolutely airtight and consistent. Pillar 3, strategic visibility. Getting attention through high-trust channels and real partnerships instead of just blindly buying ads. And finally, Pillar 4 is legitimacy engineering. Actively building your institutional credibility by showing off your expertise through things like third-party certifications and deep case studies. And the numbers backing this up are just incredible. Researchers surveyed B2B procurement pros, and they found that just nailing that first pillar, clarity of purpose, drops price sensitivity by a massive 22%. Plus, it spikes overall trust by 28%. Let that sink in. When your clients truly understand why you do what you do, they literally stop nickel and diming you. Then there's legitimacy engineering. A massive meta-analysis of over 140 different studies showed that if an SME actively constructs its legitimacy, like, showcasing those certifications and client testimonials, their survival rate jumps by 28%. You aren't just crossing your fingers and hoping people trust you, you're literally engineering that trust with hard, undeniable proof. Moving right along to part 4, building your counter network. All right, let's get into the step-by-step of how you actually implement this. It's a 5-phase process. Phase 1 is diagnose. Take a hard look at your algorithmic vulnerability right now. Like, if Google changes the rules tomorrow, how much traffic vanishes? Phase 2 is define. Ground your purpose in what your organization actually does. Absolutely no marketing fluff allowed. Phase 3 is design. Building the actual communication protocols and narrative frameworks. Phase 4, deploy. Activate that ultra-consistent story across every single touchpoint. And finally, phase 5 is adapt. Monitor the feedback and keep things coherent over time. Because this isn't some quick, one-time marketing stunt. This is an ongoing core strategic competence. As you're building this out, I want you to remember this brilliant insight from researchers Gilliam and Rockwell. They found that narrative authority functions as a credibility signal that compensates for limited institutional history. Honestly, this is huge news for small businesses. It means you don't need some massive 100-year corporate legacy to compete. A truly coherent, highly authentic, consistent story will beat out a big, impersonal corporate history pretty much every single time. And finally, part 5, the counter network effect. This is where the magic really happens. When you get this system fully operational, your clients and partners basically become co-authors of your brand story. And this happens through 4 compounding mechanisms. First, relational density. Every strong connection you make actually boosts your referral likelihood by 8 to 12%. Second is narrative coherence. Studies show that just keeping your story straight accounts for 39% of the variance in long-term trust. Third, legitimacy spillover, meaning the credibility of your trusted partners literally rubs off on you. And fourth, epistemic autonomy. You finally get your freedom and resilience back from those unpredictable platform algorithms. Now, if you're in the B2B space, you really need to hear this next part. A massive study looking at nearly 40,000 buyer-seller relationships found that relational trust explains 42% of the variance in B2B customer loyalty. Basically, the impact of trust on loyalty is 2.3 times stronger in B2B than in B2C. So trust isn't just a nice, warm and fuzzy bonus. It is the absolute fundamental driver of your customer loyalty. And the payoff for doing all of this is huge. SMEs who invest in this independent, trust-based counter network, the ones who diversify their visibility instead of just praying to the algorithm gods, they see 31% higher revenue growth compared to their algorithm-dependent competitors. Not to mention, they are 41% more resilient when those algorithms inevitably shift. I mean, that is the undeniable, hard financial ROI of the Counter-Nexus. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to chew on. Are you competing on their algorithm or your own truth? Because we live in an era where these massive inorganic networks are constantly trying to control human judgment. Building a counter-nexus, that's practically an act of resistance. You have a choice here. You can let a piece of code dictate your worth, or you can step up, reclaim your narrative agency, build deep relational trust, and grow your business with genuine courage, clarity, and conviction. Thank you so much for hanging out with me to explore this incredible playbook today. Take these pillars, start building your counter network today, and take back your story.